They say some places hold on to things, memories, emotions, sometimes even people. I never paid attention to those kinds of stories. Ghosts, curses, haunted rooms, all sounded like something you'd hear around a campfire or in a late-night movie. That was until the night I checked into a roadside motel off Interstate 79, just outside West Virginia. The name of the place? I don't even remember anymore, but I remember the number on the key fob as if it were branded into my memory. Room 313. I was driving from Pittsburgh to Tennessee, trying to make it in one long stretch, but the storm had other plans. Sheets of rain pounded the highway like fists. The roads were empty, and the visibility was nearly non-existent. I passed several exits, but most led to nothing. Abandoned gas stations or shuttered diners. Then I saw it too, a flickering neon sign cutting through the haze. Vacancy. I didn't hesitate. I was tired, soaked in anxiety, and barely able to keep my eyes open. The motel was old, one of those L-shaped, three-story buildings. Faded paint peeling from the wooden panels. A narrow driveway looped around the back. There were no other cars, just mine. Inside the front office, a dusty bell sat on a scratched counter. No one was around, but a handwritten sign said, "Ring bell for service." So I did. After a pause, a man shuffled out from a back room. He looked tired, sunken eyes, pale skin, wearing a beige uniform that didn't quite fit. He didn't ask for ID, didn't give a name. Just handed me a rusted metal key. Room 313, third floor, corner room. The elevator was out of order, so I dragged my bag up two long, creaking staircases. The hallway was dim, lit by weak yellow bulbs that hummed like they were on their last breath. As I reached the end of the hall, I noticed something. There were only odd-numbered doors, 301, 303, 305, all the way to 311. Then, a gap. Number 313, plaque. Just a door, slightly darker than the others. Paint stripped around the frame, as if something had clawed at it. The key slid into the lock with resistance, but it turned. The door creaked open slowly, reluctantly. The first thing that hit me was the smell. It was subtle, like old wood and something faintly metallic, like rust or dried blood. The lights inside flickered for a second before stabilizing. The room looked normal at first glance. A queen-sized bed, a dusty nightstand, a TV bolted to the wall, and an old floral armchair in the corner. But everything felt off, like the room was trying to pretend it was just another room, but failing to mask something much older, much deeper. I tossed my duffel on the bed and sat down, letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The mattress sagged under me with a strange resistance, as if something inside was shifting. I brushed it off as exhaustion. I told myself it was just an old mattress in an old motel. That night I barely slept. The room never felt dark. Even with the lights off and the curtains drawn, there was a faint glow, pale and cold, that seemed to seep from the corners. I turned over again and again, but each time I opened my eyes, I could have sworn the furniture had moved ever so slightly. The chair was facing the bed, then the window. The TV screen, even though it was off, reflected the bed with a tiny, flickering delay, like a VHS stuck in rewind. At around 3:13 a.m., I remember glancing at the clock. I heard scratching, soft at first, like fingernails on cardboard. Then it got louder. It came from behind the wall, then under the bed, then the bathroom. I got up, checked everything. Nothing. The door was locked, the window shut. The scratching stopped the moment I turned the lights back on. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I went to the front desk to ask about another room. The clerk was different this time. A young girl, maybe in her early 20s, with wide eyes that darted around like a rabbit in a trap. I asked casually about room 313. She froze. Then she leaned forward and whispered, "We don't rent that room." "Are you sure you stayed in 313? I showed her the key. She looked at it like I had handed her a dead rat. "This key isn't supposed to be here," she whispered, then snatched it and disappeared into the back. I didn't follow. I just walked out, deciding I'd cut the trip short and check out early. But when I returned to the room to pack my things, something had changed. The bed was unmade. I hadn't touched it. My bag was open. I had zipped it shut. On the mirror, written in condensation, were the words, "You're already staying." There was no steam. I hadn't showered yet. I didn't think. I grabbed my stuff and left without locking the door. On my way out, I passed the same man who had checked me in. He stared at me with an expression I still can't place. Was it pity or warning? I drove out of there like something was chasing me. Maybe it was. My heart didn't slow down until I was nearly an hour away. I stopped at a gas station just past the state line, trying to catch my breath, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. But when I opened the trunk to grab a water bottle, my blood turned to ice. The key, the same rusted metal key to room 313, was sitting on top of my duffel bag. I had left it at the front desk. I was sure of it, but there it was, mocking me, heavy, cold, and wet, like it had been pulled from a river. I didn't know what to do. Tossing it felt wrong, like throwing away something cursed might only make things worse. So I kept it. Maybe I was just too scared to tempt fate. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't tell anyone about the motel. It felt like admitting it out loud would give it more power. I started having dreams. Same room, same flickering lights, same soft scratching. Sometimes I'd see a figure in the chair watching me, not moving, just existing. Then things started happening in my apartment. Lights flickering, appliances turning on by themselves, scratches on my bedroom wall in sets of 3, always 3. And at exactly 3:13 a.m. every night, I'd wake up with a jolt. No dreams, no sound, just that eerie frozen feeling, like I wasn't alone in the room. I became obsessed. I started researching, looked into the motel, its history, its land, anything I could find, but there was nothing. The place didn't exist on Google Maps, no reviews. No mentions in any travel directories, like it had been erased. I tried retracing my route from that night, but I couldn't find the exit again, not even a sign. It was as if the whole place had been swallowed by the earth after I left, but I still had the key. One night, I decided to test something. I set up a camera in my bedroom, pointed at the foot of my bed. I wanted to see what happened at 3:13. The footage. I wish I hadn't watched it. Around 3:12, everything went dark on the screen, even though the lamp was on. Then, at 3:13, the lamp exploded into static, and a shape appeared, a shadowy figure, tall, featureless, but its arms too long, and its head tilted in that unnatural, twitchy way you only see in horror films. It stood at the foot of my bed for 7 minutes, then vanished. I moved out 2 days later. I had to go back. It didn't make sense, but I knew this thing wasn't done with me until I went back to room 313. So I drove, retraced every mile of that cursed highway, night after night. And then, one rainy night, the sign appeared again. Vacancy. It looked the same, like nothing had changed. I walked into the front office and the same man was there. He said nothing, just handed me the key. I didn't even ask. I knew which room. The walk to 313 felt like it took an hour, each step heavier than the last. When I reached the door, it was already open. The room was darker than before, but familiar, like a memory that had decayed over time. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. The darkness inside room 313 wasn't ordinary. It was thick, suffocating, like stepping into a dream that knew too much about you. I fumbled for the light switch, but the room had different rules now. There were no lights. The bulb that used to flicker was gone, leaving only that hum in the walls, low, almost like chanting beneath your skin. The air was icy, and the scent was stronger this time, like mold, iron, and something burnt. My eyes adjusted just enough to make out shapes. The bed, the chair, the old television, and the mirror across from it. But this time, there was something in the mirror, not a reflection, a window. I stepped toward it slowly. In the glass, I saw a version of the room, Same furniture, same layout, but in that mirror room I wasn't standing there. Something else was. It moved like a human, but its limbs bent wrong, and its face wasn't a face, just blank skin where features should be. But it was watching me, studying me. I stepped back and it mimicked me a beat later, like it was learning. I couldn't move, I couldn't think. That thing, my shadow self, was getting more confident. It stopped mimicking. It started pacing, watching me like a predator who finally figured out how to climb the fence. And then the mirror cracked, not shattered, just one long crack, down the middle. And from that crack, something began to bleed. Black liquid oozed from the glass, sliding down the mirror's surface and pooling onto the floor. I wanted to run. Every cell in my body screamed for me to move, but the room had me. It was like the floor held my feet, like the cold air had formed hands gripping my chest. And then the television turned on by itself. No picture, just static, but the sound. It wasn't white noise. It was whispers, layered voices, male, female, child, elderly, all speaking in reverse, some crying, some screaming, some begging me to leave. And one voice I recognized. It was mine, saying words I never spoke. The door wouldn't open. The handle twisted endlessly, like it was just a decoration. I pounded on it, screamed, but my voice died in the air like it had no place there. The room wasn't just haunted, it was alive, breathing, remembering. I turned back toward the mirror. The crack had spread, webbing like veins across the glass. That thing inside was gone. Number not gone. It was in the room. I didn't see it enter. It didn't need to. One moment the room was empty, and the next it was standing in front of the bed. Same shape, same blank skin. Closer now, more solid. It began to walk toward me, slow, deliberate, and behind it, shadows spilled from the mirror, dozens of them, crawling, climbing over each other, stretching across the walls like spilled ink. Then everything went black. I woke up in my car, parked on the side of the highway. The key was gone. My shirt was torn. My skin felt like it had been underwater for hours. Cold, wrinkled, drained. I checked my phone. 3 days had passed. No missed calls, no messages. Like no one had even noticed I was gone. I never found the motel again. The road that led to it, gone. Not even a trail. Just endless highway and trees that all looked the same. But the room didn't let go. Every night at 3:13 a.m., I wake up. Every night, something new happens. Sometimes I hear the whispers again. Sometimes I see that mirror in my dreams. And sometimes I see my reflection doing things I'm not.